got a lot of shine. Running up the number, that's a lot of crime. Try to take it from me, must be out your mind. Lot of sun, smoky in the air, that's a lot of pine. Pockets running over with the dollar sign. Try to take it from me, yeah. Big time, big time, big time, big time. Running up the numbers, that's a lot of grind. Try and take it from me, must be out your mind. Lot of sun, smoky in the air, that's a lot of pine. Pockets running over with the dollar sign. Try and take it from me. Big time. I got a lot of shine. Running up the numbers, that's a lot of grind. Try and take it from me, must be out your mind. I'm big time, lot of shine. Smoky in the air, that's a lot of pine. Pockets running over with the dollar sign. Try and take it from me, from me, from me, from me. Big time, number 9. Got it in my teeth, I got a lot of shine. Running up the numbers, that's a lot of grind. Try and take it from me, must be out your mind.
Hey, welcome back to the YSN Power Hour. No show yesterday, and now we're back, and we are better than ever because we've got 5 people ready to voice their opinion here on this Friday that everybody's freaking snowed in. This is unbelievable. Even Sigler, who goes to work whenever they tell him not to, is snowed in, and he's here. What?
Not true. I was there. I left at 1:30 today.
Wait, you went to work today?
Oh yeah.
I thought today was an off day for like you were gonna stay at home.
No, I went today. I planned on leaving early today, but long story short, wasn't able to work from home today. Not my choice, and I had to, uncover 3 inches of sleet off my truck this morning at 5 a.m. and it was a good time.
Sounds like it. I really appreciate my garage at this moment in the show. I'm not going to lie to you.
You should.
2-car garage.
You should.
I'm at work. I made the journey. I almost didn't get here. I'm not going to lie to you. I live a whole what do you think, Siggy? Half a mile.
Yeah, you live maybe a 1/10 of a mile closer than I do. Yeah.
So I'm trying to get out of my driveway, and no dice. And I'm not going to post any blame or push because I love the people who work the roads, because otherwise we're not going anywhere. But I got to admit, it's kind of tough whenever you get plowed in and you got to, there's that one bump you got to go over. Well, if the front end of your car can't get over that one bump, you're in big trouble, Timo Sabi. So there I was, just kind of sitting like half and half, like Arnold Palmer here, just chilling on this snow bump, and I didn't know what to do. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, so I got 2 choices here. I can either go back in the garage and say, that's it, or I can go push the damn car by myself. I'm not going to get Sarah's watching the baby. She's watching Z. I'm not going to go get her. So I He-Man the crap out of the Honda, pushed it back over the bump, ran, somehow got back in like Jedi stuff out of Star Wars, But if anybody's watching, it's like that America's Funniest Videos. And then I just gunned it right up and I was good. And I'm here. So, Anthony, well played on the stay-at-home day. Appreciate it. Second day in a row. Well done, because I don't think the Carts would make it. But we're here nonetheless. The 5 of us. Look who's back. Look, we got CJ, who has been holding down the fort for all of us here on the Power Hour. We got Siggy, which we've already established. Amo is at home today, I believe, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, living the dream. And then we got some guy that has grown up before our eyes and is like 23 now. Michael Jr.
We're still not even at 18 yet, so.
Well, the last time you appeared on the show, you were about 7 months. So, and I'm talking 7 months old. So, like, what's been going on, Mr. McNuggies? Anything good?
Yeah, just basketball, normal stuff throughout the winter, just getting through school. Yeah, I mean, nothing too crazy over the last few months.
Beaver Local's been killing it?
Yes, sir.
You guys been doing all right. Much to the thumbs up of all of us here at YSN. If you haven't been on this show for a while, you don't understand the kind of celebrities we have joining the show. Let me just show you. Kirby Smart is now a main contributor here on YSN, and he says, "Go Dogs." And he starts out with that. Doug Peterson got the Jags job. Not a fan of that, if we're going to be honest. Okay, we'll talk about that a little bit, if that's what you want to talk about. And then Nikki C says, McNuggies representing the high school community. And you know who's been holding it down for you, McNuggies, since you've been gone? Is Nikki C in the comment section. He's been blowing it up. So I think Nikki C deserves a link to get on the show at some point. Maybe we'll have him on next week. All right. It is time to check out today's On This Day in Sports History, which has taken place of our national day that is. And this is a significant one, boys, because in 1991, baseball's Hall of Fame Board of Directors vote 12-0 to bar Pete Rose due to his betting on games while a player and manager. And I think that's where we get our wires crossed a little bit, because people always say, well, we'll just put him in. He didn't do it as a player. He didn't do it. He just did it as a manager. Put him in as, and he did it as a player. Did it as a player. And unfortunately, people say, well, he didn't bet against his team. It doesn't matter. I don't think that he should be kept out of the Hall of Fame because of it, but I just don't think that part of the conversation matters. This was a significant date in sports history, because since that day, that has been debated over and over and over and over and over and over and again. But from this, I want to talk about Barry Bonds for 1 second, because I saw something very interesting the other day on social media, guys, that, the time is up for Barry Bonds, right? And for Roger Clemens, the 10-year mark, they can't be voted in. However, I saw the greatest loophole I have ever seen in my life, and it was as sweet as sugar. The San Francisco Giants should sign Barry Bonds up to a player contract just for a month and restart the clock on his Hall of Fame. He'd have to wait 5 years, but he would have his clock reset on the Hall of Fame. He'd have 10 more years of opportunity for the for Major League Baseball. Would this be something you would support? Or do you think he's going to get anyway? Or do you think he's just not going to get in at all? Let's start with you, McNuggies.
I mean, it would be something interesting to see. I mean, again, another 10 years, the voters get to rethink about whether he gets in. And obviously he had the increase in his, percentage of people that voted for him over those 10 years. But I still don't think if you give him 10 more years down the road that he would reach the 75% threshold. So I don't think it would be something that ends up mattering in the end. I think his best chance to get in is through that players or veterans committee. And what is it? 2 years he's eligible for the Veterans Committee, the Players Committee, to get in that way. I think that's the only way that Barry Bonds would be able to get in, although it would be an interesting storyline to see him get another 10 years of eligibility to have that debate over and over and over again about whether he should get in.
Valid points, Mr. Mosier.
I like it, but if the voters are the same, which I would.
But in 10 years, 10 years, this is my thought. Not to cut you off, in 10 years, don't you think some of them would either die off or retire?
That's what I was gonna say. Like if the voters are the same, I would say it doesn't matter, right? But he's not really close to where even if 5, 6, 7, 8 retire, would it even help him? So I'd be interested to see, but I don't know if it'd really help.
Joining us from the comforts of his Badger home, it is the Badger head basketball coach, Mr. Josh Upshire. Josh, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Living the dream. We're going to get to these cancellations in just a minute, but we're talking about Barry Bonds, and if the Giants signed him to a contract, even for 30 days, it restarts his opportunity to be in the Hall of Fame. Would you be behind that?
So as a Pirates fan, I honestly was talking to some other people about that. I think that's a great idea. I honestly think that he deserves fully to be in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And why not do something like that and restart his clock? I mean, that'd be in the best interest of him.
Best interest of baseball, right?
Yeah.
I love it. And I love having you on the show. Thanks for piping in. We're going to get to the snow day that was and is, and the frustrations, gentlemen. We'll get to that in just a moment. Chris Ziegler, I know that you are a diehard baseball fan. Talk to me about Barry Bonds, and if you think that this would be a great opportunity, not only for Barry, not only for his fans, but for the Major League Kingdom.
I think it's an interesting concept if you think about it. It's so Barry Bonds like just to sneak your way around and try to find a way in, right? It's weird that we're having this conversation because on my way home, your boy or CJ's boy Ron Cook was on the radio talking about Pete Rose and Barry Bonds, and how Pete Rose is not even on the ballot because of cheating, and everybody understands with the betting scandal and everything. But as driving, it's just logically thinking if they're keeping Barry Bonds out of the Hall of Fame for basically cheating, what's the difference? Breaking rules.
Doozy.
And I just gotta, as much as I'm not a fan, said Mr. Bonds, really, I'm still of the camp. Steroids doesn't help you hit a baseball or field it.
Bingo.
Been around it long enough. I know that it's hand-eye coordination, and if you don't have it, you can't do what he was doing. And
he was doing it before.
Exactly. I mean, and I'm probably one of the only ones on this panel, I think, I don't know coach's age, but that remembers Bonds in his prime in Pittsburgh and prior to the prime in Pittsburgh.
Right.
And
Yep.
The dude was doing it then when he was 160 pounds soaking wet.
When he was giving Jim Leland a hard time in spring training.
Yes.
And listen, when Jim Leland says, and this came from the fan as well, if Jim Leland says that Barry Bonds deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, and those two went toe to toe and nose to nose, guys got to go home.
Says a lot.
Well, there's a mutual respect there between the two, and I know I shared an article on Facebook a while back in regards of Barry Bonds and Jim Leland and how fondly Bonds thinks of Leland after that whole meltdown they had in spring. I'll still never forget the video watching it as a kid when Leland was telling him to get his stuff and get the hell out of here. And the mutual respect there is unbelievable. And the admiration, even when they had Leland on their shoulders, and I don't remember if it's 90 or 91 when they had him on their shoulders, carrying him off the field at Three River Stadium. But you could tell in Bonds' face, just the respect there is unreal.
I'm a huge Barry Bonds fan, as well as Bobby Bonilla. I was a Bonilla guy first when I was little, but I learned quickly to be a Bonds guy. And now I'm working my way back to Bonilla just because he's a great mind that gets paid every single year. So I guess even as a kid, I knew a good thing when I saw it. So with all due respect to the other five of us, I turn it over to the baseball guru that is the human fireball, the flaming torch that is Mr. CJ Schroeds. CJ, I know we talked about this a little bit already. What What would you think if Double B snaked his way into the Hall of Fame by giving the voters the bird on the way in?
So yes, I think Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. I've said it before. I will always think he should be in the Hall of Fame. However, I don't like that loophole at all. I think it's kind of slimy. He had his 10 years. He had his 10 years and he couldn't reach the threshold.
It wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault.
It wasn't. You're right. It wasn't his fault. But he still that's it, right? Your 10 years is up. Now, I think his best shot. I do think he will get into the Hall of Fame. I think the veterans. The modern veterans committee, whatever they call it. I think that will. I think there's enough of momentum there that will get him in the Hall of Fame. Now, if the Giants were to sign him to a 1 month contract or whatever it would be, I don't think he should be put back on the ballot. I think his time is up. Right? He had his 10 years. Move on. I think the veterans will get him in.
It would be a perfect story and a perfect ending to the story of By Any Means Necessary.
Right. That's right.
And that's the thing. Barry Bonds has always been that guy. If you look at that era in baseball, that's who they were. By any means necessary, whatever they had to put in their body, they were doing it to make sure they stayed relevant. And we've already discussed this. You don't take steroids to necessarily hit a ball further. What do you take steroids for? You take steroids to stay in the game longer. That's why it's for the longevity. It's for the grind. It's not necessarily like you don't want a baseball player benching 600 pounds. That's not, you just don't want that. Like Mark McGwire and I would argue Mark McGwire and guys his size would probably be up against it in today's era of the pitcher, because right now the pitchers are way better than the hitters. And it's not even close. It's not even close. So all that being said, I just thought it was interesting. I saw it on Facebook. Thought it was very interesting. Thought it was very unique and very Bonds-esque. Roger Clemens, like if it was like he could pick up a bat and throw it at some of the voters, he'd be the guy that does it. But this is a Bonds move, man. This is a Barry Bonds through and through. Like gets through and like he's in the parade on the day that he goes into Cooperstown, and all the voters are along the streets, and he's just got double birds flying, baby, Stone Cold Steve Austin style, just rolling right through the streets of Cooperstown. And I would love every minute of it.
Home runs aside, real quick, is how many gold gloves Barry Bonds had. Steroids doesn't matter on that aspect. That even home runs aside, even if he doesn't break the record, his fielding alone,
like.
Was it 8 gold gloves?
I mean, hello.
Well, and I just wish he had a little stronger arm as a Pirates fan. But it's for me, it comes down to this. If you walk a human being with the bases loaded at any point in their career, that is the ultimate bow down to the king moment. And he had that multiple times. That with the bases loaded, he gets the old foreski from the dugout. And Jim Leland even said this. He goes, I thought that I was going to do it. I never put it up. Barry kept looking in the dugout and seeing if I would put it up, and I didn't, and it drove him bananas because he knew that was better than any grand slam he'd ever hit. And he's right. Like, imagine, like, you would have perma, you know what, if you're standing in the box and there's bases loaded and somebody gives the four sign. Dude, I'm walking backwards, like moonwalking to first base because I can't. Like, I might go trow down because what are you going to do about it, right? Let's talk about this. Let's quickly, terrible segue. Let's talk about today. Let's talk about yesterday. Everything is freaking shut down. Everything. Back in the day when I went to school, we had to walk 5 miles of school uphill both ways
with
in
no
the
shoes,
pouring rain with sleet coming down like it was 7 and 14. I'm not gonna say that we don't air. Look at that! Look at that! What is that from 1982?
That's the Beaver Dome, 1996, my friend.
96.
You said back in my
McNuggies
day.
wasn't
Sorry,
even
that just
born.
like was an instant segue.
Was that your 6th year senior days?
Yeah.
McNuggies wasn't even born yet, Sig.
No.
Huh?
Nope.
What year were you born, McNuggies? Watch this.
04.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
Got that right to the heart, even for me.
who was drafted first? You or Roethlisberger?
I think it was me because the draft's at the end of April. I was born at the beginning. I was born the same month Roethlisberger was
Oh my
drafted.
God.
Oh, that is crazy.
Well, at least you weren't a
That's
celebration
crazy.
of Roethlisberger being drafted.
Oh, that's crazy.
That's funny.
Let's go down this path. First off, now today's a little bit different. Today was okay. I get it. The snow, the ice was everywhere. The snow was over top of the ice. CJ's in the bear den, just waiting for bears to pop out so he can wrestle them, and shank them to the ground. But from our standpoint, like yesterday, I didn't think yesterday was too terribly bad out. I really don't. I mean, there was a little bit of ice, but it wasn't today, and everything was closed and shut down, and what are these athletes and student athletes supposed to do? You know, because right now,
Play
Josh.
Madden and NBA.
Well, hey, let's hold on now. Let's pump the brakes on that because we don't want to give anybody who has reliable sources any ideas. Hold his own NBA 2K tournament or Tecmo Bowl tournament. Josh, I'm going to go to you first because you're a head coach. It's troublesome already to get these games in this time of year with cancellations, and when you get like back-to-back days, Pat would be a great person to talk to too. Pat Carney at Badger. It's troublesome because you don't know if these games can be made up, especially from the girls' side because their tournament's a week and a half away. What do you do? How do you communicate with your players and tell them stay ready because we could play three games in 3 nights?
Well, that was the hard thing today was trying to communicate to them with everything going on. We went from when you text, it was about 11:30. The game was still on. To 12:15, all of a sudden the game is canceled now. So, I mean, in that short period, it was, hey, we're getting ready to play to, oh, never mind, the game's canceled now. So, you just got to be ready at any point to be able to play. And as far as makeup games, like we said, the girls' tournament draw already happened. Ours is Sunday, so you're trying to fit games into the little bit of time that you have. Because there are home games that we're trying to fit in, with the girls trying to finagle in between that and middle school games still going on. And it's hard to find a time where you can make everything up together. Like I know we're talking about doing a middle school game at 4, a JV game at 5:30, varsity game at 7. So, just trying to fit things in as good as we can to get these games in. Because I know there are some records that some people worry about out there. So we're trying to do it, get them in, and as best as we can.
So let me ask you this question because this is one of the things that I want to talk about today, and I think that we're not breaking ground by talking about this because it happens it doesn't happen all the time. It happens sometimes. I think it should happen a lot more often. Girls, boys, doubleheader. I love
Arlington did that at the beginning of the year. It was awesome.
Love girls, boys, doubleheaders.
Yep.
Gives a better opportunity for people in the community to see the product at the same time, right? Yep. Sigler, you're shaking your head no. What don't you like about it?
Well, I like the concept, but it has to be the right opponent. And girls programs are struggling right now to build programs anyways with participation numbers, especially as you get to D3 and D4 school. And the more non-JV games you have doesn't help your case. And it's really hard because you have a lot of D3 and D4 schools that don't have JV contests or just 2 quarters. And then on a night where maybe you might play a 4-quarter JV game, you decide to throw a boy-girl doubleheader in there. And then what are you going to do? So that's the only negative about it. The positive is you're right. There's a lot more people in the gym. Creates a whole nother atmosphere there for the girls. It allows the girls to play in front of a bigger crowd usually too. So I like the concept, but I think the opponent has to be the right to where, either the girls team doesn't have a JV team anyways. Maybe that's a great to do it. Something like that. It's got to fit.
And I know
So
there was a lot of talk. Sorry, DJ. I know
You're
there was a
okay.
lot of talk before about, the girls being able to play on Friday nights and Saturday nights and things like that. That would be a great way to be able to get them to do it. And again, in front of bigger crowds, you could even play the JV games on the normal Monday and Thursday slots if you wanted to, and then have the varsity games on your Tuesdays and Fridays or Saturdays, however you want to do it.
I love that idea, and here's
That's a good idea.
my thought process behind the idea of these boy girl doubleheaders, girl boy doubleheaders, whatever way you want to cut it, right? Because I think there's nights that I think the girls could probably be the main event of the evening in some schools, and I think that'd be
West
awesome.
Salem.
Salem would be I really honestly I think that place would. We
We were
saw
there
what it
for
was
that
like at
girls
West
game.
Branch.
How packed was that?
It was,
That Salem girls game at what was that? 1:30.
yeah.
I
It was
think
packed. It was jam packed, just as much as it was. Well, maybe not just as much because the
I was there
students
for
were
the boys
different.
game. The boys game was.
But here's
again, that's
here's-
1:30 on Saturday.
here's my argument. If you pack the stands like that, what made us want to play sports when we were younger? Because we knew there was one place to be. Everybody was going to be there. Your family, your neighbors, your friends' family, your friends, everybody was going to be there on Tuesday, Friday nights. And if you weren't there, you weren't anybody. And I think that if you were to do that more often, on Friday nights especially, that more players would come out. Because you get those younger kids that come out, and those younger kids see these giant crowds that we are used to growing up. Maybe not necessarily CJ and Michael, but the crowds that we were used to, where there wasn't social media. You didn't know the score by staying at home. You were excited because it was the GOW or whatever. And with YSN affiliation, you're being seen by everybody. I think that is a way to bring the sport back. Not to relevancy, because it's not like it's not relevant, but nothing pisses me off more than a 2-quarter game in JV. And I don't want to say it's not worth playing, but sometimes, guys, I gotta say it's not worth playing. I think coaches would probably rather not play the game at all than waste time wasting quarters on people that you shouldn't even be playing the game at all.
Yeah, we were actually excited to have our girls boys doubleheader tonight.
I was number
awesome.
one.
Yeah, it was. We were looking forward to it. Something that Coach Turnage and I, our girls coach, we have a good relationship, and we were looking forward to it. And to get that word that now we're not going to be able to do it is kind of disappointing for all of us.
Certainly, CJ, would you get behind a girls boys doubleheader?
Oh yeah, I think it'd be a cool opportunity. I think what Sigler said though should be taken into consideration, right? If you're whatever program you are, right? If you're boys or girls, you want your JV playing that same day. I love our commenters. You do want your program, right, playing on the same day, so you can sort of have all of your players work and whatever it may be. But so I think Sigler he makes a very solid point. It has to be the right opponent.
I love that our commenters go full character. Like there's no tap dancing around it. Like they're kind of that person. They go full. Like this one is my favorite personally because first off, I don't know who that person's supposed to look like. I'm cool. I love it. The fro because I got no hair at all.
That's what I was gonna say. He likes the hair.
And then 1 week he was my cousin. The next week he was my brother. But he has the same first name and a different last name, which I absolutely love. I love that he embraces it. It might be my favorite burner account out there.
I'll tell you what, Campfield and Marlington put on a really good one to start the year, where there was a quadruple header. Girls JV started it off, boys JV followed, boys varsity, and the girls varsity was the
main event.
Main event on Saturday. It was awesome. Me and Hartwig did it. The crowd was unreal, but that's a little different. I think it's really cool. Head coach for Marlington, his boy is a senior, his girl is a sophomore. You look at Canfield, McElroy's boy is a senior, and his girl plays. So they took a photo afterwards of the event with all the kids and stuff. I hope more places do that, like quadruple header. If people have enough kids for JV and varsity on a Saturday, makes for a long day for some of the parents. But at the same time, the crowd was unreal, and putting the girls last, it was awesome. Because the girls, I would say about halftime is when most of the people left, but a lot of the fans stayed, and it was really cool atmosphere.
Well, I think in getting to one of your points there, it might be a long day for some of the parents. Listen, if you had me fill out a bubble chart, Michael, I don't know if you know what a bubble chart is. It's what we used to take tests on back in the day. If you had to be,
I mean a visual example of what that is. I don't know what you're talking about.
So there's A, B, C, and D, and we had to pencil in fully the what we wanted to be the answer, right?
And if you went outside the line,
if you go outside the line, you're risking it because you might not get the answer right. And if you didn't
not
fill
sure,
in,
C all day long. C.
C's get degrees, baby. That's what that was my motto. See, I got a whole network. I'm an owner, an entrepreneur, and C got me all the way through. But if you were to give me a bubble chart and say, listen, you can either have your 3 kids spread out all over the God's green earth and have to track them and trace them and try to figure out and get them there and get them back and get them home and get them safe. Or you can have them all in one building and they're all going to play the same team and you have to be there from 4 till 10 o'clock at night. Listen, I'm signing up for that every night of the week and twice on Sunday, man.
Yeah.
Where the hell did Michael go?
I don't know.
He answered C on the bubble chart. That's what happened. This is what happens when you answer C on the bubble chart. There he is. We got to take a break. When we come back, and I will allow anybody who wants to, because this might get a little bit scrumptious. We're going to talk about parents in the stands and what is their right and where is the line? Because, ladies and gentlemen, the line is continuously being crossed, not only with coaches, but with officials and with players. And quite frankly, I think they're tired of it. And I think a lot of people are starting to get real tired of it in this day and age, especially when everybody has a cell phone. We take a break. We come back. We talk about that. Get your phones ready because there's going to be a lot to chime in on. We want to hear from you in the chat box from the – what do we call them? The weasel? What is it? The bleacher creatures. That's what it is, the bleacher creatures. We'll be back on the YSN Power Hour right after this.
Every customer has a story, and at Greenwood Chevrolet, we are committed to making sure it ends with you in the right vehicle. I get to be part of somebody's adventure, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their finances. They trust me to take care of them, and they trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Working with your family can be stressful at times, but because they're family, you know that you're going to get a loving, honest answer, even when things don't make sense to any problem. Dealing with Medicare can be confusing and overwhelming. That's why here at Myers Family Insurance, we do our best to give you honest and caring answers to all of your questions. Family, like Medicare, isn't always perfect, but when you put others first, the results can be amazing.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance.
It's storm season.
I think we're under the gun for some heavy storms over the next couple of hours.
And Storm Tracker 21 is ready.
This is probably the one we're keeping a closer eye on.
On air.
And locally, we're going to have a lot of eyes on our area.
Online.
All right, let's talk high-risk futurecast and the timing of this weather.
On social media and on our app.
Notice we'll have scattered showers on Thursday.
Stay ready with Storm Tracker 21.
The severe weather threat now through around sunset this evening.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions.
WRS Insurance Solutions is a local independent agency that specializes in life, Medicare, long-term care, and disability products. Call us at 330-953-3722 or visit us at wrsinsurancesolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
Oh boy, welcome back And I feel like I need one of those ring bells at the side of the WWE ring because, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to discuss on some touchy topics here in the sports world. We don't like to often go down a negative road. We're going to try not to do that, but we want you to be informed. And where do we start with the topic of parents in sports? And I'm not just talking about any parent. And we talked about, a couple weeks ago, being kind of overbearing parents. And then there's just the blatant a-holes without, not trying to pull any punches. The people who go after coaches, that go after their kids, that go after officials during games. And the line needs to be drawn, and it needs to be drawn three ways: quick, fast, and in a hurry, because we are way beyond where we should be over and without giving any identity or too much press to this, because we don't want people to go out and think that if they do something stupid that we're going to talk about it. But by golly, this was beyond stupid, and we want to bring attention so you don't end up for some reason going out and doing it. A seventh grade game, middle school game this past week. There was a gentleman who disrupted the game by wanting to fist fight essentially everybody in the crowd at a seventh grade girls basketball game. From what I understand, and I don't want to get too deep into it because I don't know all the situations, there was talk of racism, there was talk of cheating, there was talk of scandal, there was talk of all this, that, and the other. And he wanted to go in the crowd and start fighting people, women, a man fighting a woman in the crowd because they have a difference of opinion of seventh grade girls basketball game. And not to take anything away from those players that are playing in that game, because I'm sure it's very important to them, very important to their family, very important to their season. But let's get with it, folks. At the end of the day, if you have any thoughts of fighting someone at a game, I don't care what level it is, professional, college, high school, and if you are dumb enough and to fight at a youth sports game, you are, to me, the scum of the earth. When it's supposed to be fun, right? You want to fight because you're losing $6,000 at the Super Bowl, you're an idiot, but go ahead. But we're talking about a seventh grade girls game, and we got some cat trying to fight women, and the cops were called, and the girl. What we don't understand is all the things we talk about with mental health, all the things we talk about with trying to raise our kids the right way. We're trying to keep these kids playing sports, not trying to derive them from it. Those kids could have PTSD from that moment for the rest of their lives. And you look at that, some kids, when they're small, as a baseball coach, I didn't realize this at the ripe old age of 21, that if you send somebody in there because he's not very good at baseball, to get hit, he probably is not going to want to play anymore, because it's going to smart a little bit, and that kid won't want to play anymore, and your numbers are going to absolutely tumble. I hope it's not the case in this situation that either program suffers, but I've got to believe that even to today, as it happened earlier in the week, the conversation's happening right here. It's happening in text messages. It's happening in emails. And I wonder who's treating these kids and what conversations being had with the kids. So, guys, I'm going to turn to you. What can be done to slow down the role of overbearing parents that this is life and death to them? Like a basketball game, a baseball game, a football game, this is life and death, and they're going to do stuff like this in the crowd based on playing time, based on the score. What can be done at this point, if anything? Sig, we'll start with you.
Can I pass?
Yeah, you can pass.
Come back to me. I want to see where this conversation goes first, because I could go 85 different ways here.
All right, Amo, you've experienced it. What do you say?
I don't think you're ever going to get rid of the overbearing parent, because you can't tell the parent to not come back and support their kid, because that creates something else in itself where now you got other parents that would join in, right? But to yell at refs, like example, this year I was doing a game earlier, and I had me, you know how small I am. I was the escort for the refs out of the building until the cops got there. Which, why is it coming to that? I mean, nothing against those refs. Those refs were great guys. I was sitting there talking with them. They were great. But I mean, some of the calls were questionable. But to go out there and threaten the refs, come on, like that's where I draw the line. And I think that's where some schools do it differently. Like you look in the EBC, for example. I know if you get tossed, you have to sit for the next 2 games, right? Only one school in the EBC actually follows those rules.
Really?
And it's Salem.
Are you talking
West
fans?
Branch?
Are you talking fans?
Yeah. Salem's the only one, right? I know West
I
Branch.
don't know, so I can't comment. I have no idea.
Got tossed. He was at the next game the next day in the fans. But it's Canton South, same thing.
But how like it should be
Salem's
on the
the only one that
athletic
follows
directors
it.
to keep track of that. That's a tough ask. They've got so many hats they have to
Salem's the
wear.
only one doing it. Because, Matt's a
We don't
great
know
guy.
that. We don't know that. That could be just a one-off instance.
No. I can for facts. Salem's the only one that follows it.
So
You
I
can
guess
talk to
getting
everybody
the
at Salem.
I guess getting the EBC was a pipe dream.
No, it's true though. Like some schools don't follow it. Like every school, if they want to follow it, they follow it, and if they don't, the conference isn't going to do anything.
As a statistician, says Nikki C, I talked to many officials during the basketball season. They all say that there's a problem with finding new refs because they're scared of overbearing parents. All right. Josh, welcome to the conversation. Right into the fire you go. What are your thoughts?
Honestly, I think it starts with the administration, to be honest with you. I think our administration does a very good job of handling the parents. We haven't had a whole lot of situations as far as that. I know in the past, we've had some visiting parents who have been thrown out of our gym. And we're the same way. If you're thrown out, then you're out for league games. This parent was out for the rest of the year.
Oof.
So, and as I said, I think our administration does a good job. We don't have a whole lot of situations. Now we have parents yelling and things like that. I honestly think the thing that annoys me the most is that parents think that officials care who win a basketball game. I think that's the biggest thing that annoys me the most, because officials could care less who win a basketball game. They're there to officiate, do their job, leave. I saw a comment on social media the other day, a tweet by a coach that actually cracked me up. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it was about parents yelling at kids. And it was, maybe we should have the kids who get yelled at go to the parents who are yelling, follow them around with their job and just yell at them all day long.
Bingo.
I thought that was awesome. But again, I think, for those parents who care, that if a ref cares who wins a third grade basketball game, they're in over their heads. A ref could care less who wins a third grade basketball game, high school varsity basketball. They don't care. I guess their job, they're there to do their best.
They get their whole $15 check for that little kid basketball game.
Right. Exactly. So honestly, I think, to me personally, I think as long as the administration does a good job of handling it. I will say this year we had, it was in a girls basketball game. We had a visiting team's administration. 2 of the parents got thrown out, and they actually went over and talked to the parents and was like, guys, this is it. Like, this is embarrassing. This is it. We're not going to have it anymore. And from that point on, you didn't hear a peep from the stands. So
that's all of this is super interesting. It brings up another great point is we talked about conferences being shaken up and stirred up over the past, 5 years. Right. And listen, if you haven't paid attention to this show, I firmly believe that the conferences are going to be shaken up again in the next year and a half. So be on the lookout for that. It's not that I know anything, but you just get that feeling sometimes, right? The seismic shift. But I will say this. When your fans act a certain way, it's tough for those within the conference when they see it happen on a regular basis. it's hard for them to give a vote of confidence to that particular school, right? It's a business at the end of the day. And nobody wants to deal with that crap on an every night basis, because a lot of the times what happens, guys, in basketball, in baseball, softball, whatever it may be, you've got that crowd coming in for that entire week, right? So if you're playing Louisville on Wednesday in girls basketball, you're going to play them on Friday in boys basketball, 7th, 8th grade as well. And there's a really good chance that whatever player is playing, they have a brother or sister playing as well at a higher or lower level. If you act like a turd that week for 4 years straight, the conference, they have, just like at any job, they have these side chats going that they're like, don't want to deal with this anymore. Like, when it comes time for voting for the league, see you later. You're out. Let's go find somebody else, because they don't want to deal with your garbage anymore. They don't want to deal with your attitude. And to your point, Josh, I think you nailed it right on the head. The administration is key, and we are very fortunate to have some great administrations here at the network. And I will say this: if you know what story we were just talking about with the 7th grade girls basketball game, I've already seen some of the head coach, I believe for the entire program, came out with some unbelievable leadership that pointed the finger directly at his program, at his students, at his parents, and said, this is a black eye on the program. This cannot continue to happen. That doesn't happen everywhere. And I will give credit where credit is due. That coach is a great leader, and the kind that I would love having my son or daughter play for, because I know at the end of the day, whenever is on the scoreboard, that's fantastic. He's going to lead them to being a better leader, a better person, a better human being, and one that stands up for something they believe in, as opposed to, I'm going to cry because I don't get playing time, or I pout because we lost. That doesn't matter. At the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. You utilize sports to be better people and become better leaders, and that's it. With that, Chris Sigler, you've passed. I'm not gonna let CJ or Michael McKenzie give you any free passes. You get to be the adult here and tell us your thoughts.
So I could go from a referee standpoint or a coach's standpoint, because I've done both. And I'm going to go from the coaching standpoint right now to start off. I think and Josh was actually absolutely right. It's the administration that's got to step up. I always tell people, when you go to an interview, and one of the only questions they ask you across the board, no matter what school you go to, how would you handle a parent problem? And through my own personal experience, I've learned to maybe try to flip that question, saying, you need to flip that back to the administration and say, how would you handle it? I know how I would handle it. I want to know how you would handle it too. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you handle it as a coach. If the administration doesn't have a plan or a backbone, it doesn't matter what your plan is. And I've been in that case to where, confronted by a parent that wanted to start a fight at a school, and being an adult, I just summoned the police over and they took care of it. So it's a twofold question, and it's really hard to nail down unless you have administration support. And I always encourage asking them what they would do first to support a parent problem before you even reveal your hand. Now, from an officiating standpoint, real quick, sorry.
You're fine.
I think sometimes officials pay attention to too much what's going on in the crowd. So these parents know they have them. The minute you start listening or you acknowledge somebody in the crowd, they know you're listening.
Yep.
So just ignore them. And that's a veteran move. And a lot of these young officials can't handle that. They thrive on confrontation, and they'll just look over to the parent, and then that parent knows, I got this guy the rest of the game. He's going to hear everything I say. So some of that argument goes both ways, and it just takes some experience to try to ignore that. Not all the time. The point the other night was that was just out of control. Now, granted, I don't know the whole backstory that it comes from the previous game. Some of it stems from a previous game. I don't know that whole backstory per se, but sometimes officials can head off issues at the previous game as well, so they don't spill over their own.
We talked about that, right? We know, like a coach knows, Josh knows when an official comes in. A lot of the time, especially with the shortage, he knows what he's getting. So if he stirs things up with an official, he knows that he's going to pay for it either that game or one down the line and catch some grief, or maybe have a short temper official on his hands because something he said or did in another game. And listen, we call that politicking, right? You have to understand what you're doing when you're kissing babies and shaking hands, and especially with officials, because I don't want this to sound wrong or sound like I'm abusing officials here. Officials have egos. Coaches have egos.
Yeah.
Players have parents have egos, right? So a good coach knows that there's egos there. A great coach knows how to utilize the egos that are in the room or the gymnasium or the field or whatever it is. So real quickly, because we're up against it, I want to go to Michael and CJ really quick. CJ, talk to me from the same question for both sides, but from two different lenses here. As CJ, I wanted you to tell me from a coach's perspective, when you see a parent that is being a little bit too overbearing and they come out of the stands, what your first thought is. And Michael, you'll have the same question, but as a player.
Well, as a coach, first off, it is a total embarrassment on your program. That is your kids' parents, right? That is, at the end of the day, they're basically your parents, basically, is how I would look at it, right? As an extension of my kids, as someone runs down the stands, runs on the field, I mean, that looks terrible on me as a coach, right? Now, the good thing about our field at Beaver is we have a giant hill, and then people will sit on the hill, and then, our home plate's right there, but it's a beautiful vantage point, right? I don't let any parent, any fan off that hill, right? That's my rule. If you need water, throw it, right? Don't talk to my players, don't talk to anybody on the field. That's my rule. If they violate my rule, I'm pretty hard-nosed with it, right? At the high school season, I can't do much. In summer ball, I'm about as hard-nosed with it. You embarrass me, you're out. I'm not letting you even watch my game. That's number one. That's for me. Because that's what it is. It's a total embarrassment, right? And that story that happened, when was it? On Monday. Totally embarrassing, totally terrible. It's unfathomable. I do have one instance, just a quick story, because we don't have it often at Beaver, but we did have one instance last year. It was an away game at Montour. And anybody that knows anything about Montour, they got a very good baseball program. They're one of the better teams in our area. They, unlike a lot of baseball teams, have a student section. You don't see a student section very often in baseball. Well, they had one, and they're very loud and they're very obnoxious, which is a good thing, right? That's what you want your student section to be, loud and obnoxious.
100%.
One of our parents got upset with that because it was a different environment. It was an environment we weren't used to. Ran over to the student section, said, "Shut the F up," screamed like, "Shut the F up," whatever. And that embarrassed me. And I'm not even related to the guy. I'm looking at that like, oh my God, we look like a bunch of babies. We look like a team that can't handle any pressure because one of our parents got frustrated. And it's just a total embarrassment on my program that I work so hard every day for hours trying to create a good culture, and some parent goes and screws it up. It's embarrassing. I have no tolerance for it. And that story is just, it's so heart-wrenching.
I think the six of us understand there's only one way to quiet a crowd. There's only one way that you can quiet a crowd, and that has to come on the court or on the diamond or on the field. If you, as a parent, as a player, as a coach, if you even think going over there and acknowledging the crowd is going to do anything but ignite it, you're out of your mind. You're absolutely out of your mind. All right, Michael, I know your parents very well. I love your parents so much. Your dad is an awesome football coach, and even better, man, your mother is a saint. I don't think they would ever do this, but if you were on the field and you saw mom or pop coming out on the field, what's the first thing that goes through your mind?
First of all, again, I'd be shocked. I'd like to think that they're not those type of people, but if that were to happen with one of my parents coming down onto the field or walking through the stands and telling people, shut up, and, they're putting on theatrics, it would be embarrassing. Just as CJ said, it's a blemish on your program. It's a blemish on yourself as a player. And if it's another parent that is, a parent of a teammate yelling at a coach or an official, you almost feel bad for that teammate. And you're sitting on the other sideline, you're almost laughing. It's hysterical. There was actually something that happened earlier this year. We went to Harrison Central, a tight game, went to overtime, and we actually won that game off of a buzzer beater. But earlier in the game, second quarter, there was a questionable call on the floor, and Harrison Central's fans, there were a couple sitting courtside, they just went ballistic. A couple of them got thrown out, and that's something you're talking about for the next 2 days. How about that? Those parents that got kicked out against Harrison Central, that was pretty funny, right? So it's obviously a blemish on your program, and from a player standpoint, I don't think it's much different from a coaching standpoint. As CJ said, it's just embarrassing, a blemish on your program, and it's something that we have to get rid of in today's sports.
I love it. All right, boys, it's time for, we got 3 minutes left in the show. It's your Joe Dickey Electric. What's your spark? Presented by our friends over at DickeyElectric.com, proudly powering the Mahoning Valley for over 60 years and powering YSN for the last 4. All right, Josh, I don't know if you've ever seen this before. The spark, positive spark, negative spark. All right, you've seen it, so you're well accustomed to it. Let's start with Mikey McNuggies. You haven't done one of these for a while, so why don't you just light it up?
I'll leave the weather to somebody else. I'm going to go with my sociology class. It's a CCP class I'm taking this semester. Last week, we had our first, round of assignments to turn in for the semester. I did everything, turned it in on time, and met all the requirements for the assignment. And I got an 18 out of 20 on it because the professor said, quote, why not respond to, it was a discussion. We had to post a discussion and then respond to 2 people. I did that. And she deducted points because I only met the bare minimum for the assignment. I met the requirements of the 2 responses, and only responding to 2 people deducted points. So I don't understand that, to be honest with you. I get that just doing the bare minimum all the time is not going to get by, but to deduct points off the assignment for meeting all requirements of said assignment, that definitely did not put me in the greatest mood on Monday.
C's get degrees. Amo.
C's get degrees. I like the positive spark for the teams, how they handled that situation, and the fans in general. Fans didn't provoke it, and they tried to help mediate the problem. I thought everybody there did a great job of trying to help that guy, not make it worse. And he knew what he did and apologized afterwards. And then the head coach of the opposing team for varsity level came out with that statement. That was very nice.
Phenomenal. Christopher.
Okay, so we all knew I was going to talk about it. Obviously, I have a negative spark today. So let's sit back and think for a second, right? Let's just think for a second, right? You're the owner of a company, all right? And your employees are very unhappy, right? They go on strike, okay? What do? You don't sit there and say, okay, let's wait for 2 months, okay? Let's wait for 2 months and reconvene after that, okay? Let's reconvene now, 2 months later, okay? And then when you do reconvene for 2 months later, you come up with this stupid plan. The employees come up with a dumb plan. You each have dumb ideas. And then you say, all right, let's wait another week. Another week goes by. 2 dumb ideas. Let's wait another week. Oh, now let's come out with a federal mediation. Federal mediation for what? You haven't done anything. You've sat there, done nothing for 2-3 months, and you're expecting the fans to just say, oh, okay, yeah, no, these two teams really have everyone's best interest at heart. It is so embarrassing for MLB. All I want is for the MLB players and the owners and whoever. I just want baseball fans to run the damn league. It is so. Manfred is
CJ
an
commissioner.
absolute joke. He's an idiot, a buffoon, and it's embarrassing that he comes up with, let's do federal mediation. Right, because you've done so much to figure out some plan that we're going to have baseball in 1 month. What an absolute joke.
Love it. Sick, follow that up.
Rob Manfred stinks.
Dude, CJ goes from a 1, calm as can be, like calmer than the Calm app on the phone, right? And my guy just goes, all right, I'm going to prep you here. And then this was the best at the end. CJ, well done, my friend. You have become the toast of the town. The I don't know, the Sultan of Spark, I guess you could say. Let's go. Good luck, Sigler.
Follow that up, bud.
All right. 2 negatives. I don't know if I can get as heated as he did. One is, when this is over, I got to go out and shovel this white sand we have outside, which is going to be a good time.
You want a big gulp? I'll get you one.
I might need the Circle K pizza. You've had it. You know what it's like. The second one, just to reiterate, it's been one heck of a week in regards to just events going on at games with officials.
Nick.
Oh, man. Officials, coaches, just behavior in general. And anybody knows me, last week was a long weekend too. We had an issue at another game, and it consumed a lot of my time and a lot of my life. And I just want people to be accountable. Be accountable for what you're doing. If it's officials, be accountable. If it's coaches, be accountable. If it's the assigner for officials, be accountable. That's all I ask. I don't want to go any further than that because I might get as wound up as CJ.
Is that all you got?
That's it. I'm done.
Let's go to the Badger bad boy.
So I have 2 positive sparks. First one, I just want to give a shout out to YSN. Since they've welcomed us into the family, DJ and YSN have been nothing but amazing to us. Looking forward to seeing how we can expand it in the future. The second one for me, some of you don't know, but Josh Scott and I are really good friends. Doesn't like to talk about his personal life a whole lot, but man, when he made that post the other day talking about how he went and he's cancer free now. I know he has some steps still he has to follow, but that post made my day. So shout out to Josh Scott.
Always shout out to Josh Scott. All right, I've got a positive and kind of one of those medium sparks, I guess. Positive one I got to get to right away is the announcement of the 2022 All-Star Game. 50 boys, 50 girls, one roof, South Range High School, March 26, 2022. Mark your calendars. If you've never been to a YSN All-Star Game, it is a party, and it is a celebration of the great teams, players, coaches, and our schools. And to have 50 different uniforms under one stinking roof is the coolest thing. The coolest thing we do, in my opinion. So make sure you don't miss that. Tickets will be available. And the best thing about it, I think, too, is it's all for a good cause. We haven't announced the cause yet. We'll be announcing that in the next couple of weeks. But it is for a great cause this year. We're so excited about it. And 1 year it was Alex's Lemonade Stand. We've done scholarships on the baseball and softball side. And this year is going to be no different. We're going to do something special locally here to support a 501c3 to make sure that, well, we'll have more on that later. The second one is just a thank you. Yesterday, we didn't have a show. For those of you who don't know, it was a tough start to the day. my wife was going to, and I'm not going to go all the way into it. I'm not going to try to get emotional here, but it's, my wife was taking the kids to a doctor's appointment. She took our dogs out, as she does every day, to go out and go potty. And I was at the bottom of the stairs working, going to take from, stay at home day until I got here for work. And she called me back quickly, and by the sound of her voice, I knew that something was wrong. I ran up the stairs, and my dog that we've had for it would have been 12 years. He'd have been 12 years old tomorrow, which coincidentally we share a birthday. He didn't make it. He didn't come back in. It was immediate. It was scary. He never felt any pain the entirety of his life. He was a great dog, the best dog, the only dog I've really ever had, from my standpoint. So it was an emotional experience. But all that aside, the amount of support, and I'm the first that always says, Facebook and social media is a terrible thing if you use it terribly. It can also be one of the most powerful tools in the world if you use it the right way. And I just wanted to put out there just the emotional feelings, basically setting the stage for this is why you might not hear from me today, and give a tribute to one of my best friends for the past 12 years, which I was not one that ever believed that a dog could become man's best friend. I was always of the association of, you guys are my best friends. But when a dog, when it's truly your dog and the dog follows you everywhere, and I'm talking like 2:00 in the morning, you get up out of bed, you want to go to, take a pee, and that dog follows you from your side of the bed and lays down right in front of the door frame. That was Boomer. So I want to say thank you to everybody. Long story around it, but I want to say thank you to everybody that took a minute out. And there was a ton of you guys, and I think all of you guys here, yeah, exactly. That said just a moment and gave us a thought or a prayer. Because I know, like I said, guys, we've been married. My wife and I have been married for 12 years now, and we got the dog 6 months after we got married. So we didn't know really life as a married couple without Boomer. And now we will. And it was a rough moment. And anybody that's ever buried their own dog is stronger than I am, man. Cause that was tough. That was tough. So thank you. And I mean it, all of you. I appreciate everything that you said, whether my wife was able to read it. I let her read as many as she could. We both had the swelled eyes yesterday, and that's why I didn't think it was good to be part of a show, because I couldn't focus on anything but that. So I appreciate your patience and understanding as we don't take very many days off this show. But I greatly and certainly appreciate the day off from it. So on behalf of all of us from the Oakley family and to all of you at YSN and to the whole YS Nation, thank you so much for everything yesterday. It meant the world to me. So, Josh, thank you for joining today. I know it's your first time. Hope it's not your last. Mr. Sigler, as always, it's always a pleasure getting your opinion. CJ, you killed it once again on the Spark. Amo, always love getting your thoughts and opinions. Michael McNuggies, one of the OGs of YSN in this show. It is always great to have you back, my friend, and I hope that you keep those grades high. C doesn't get degrees. C's just gets you pie, and you are better than all of us here. So make sure you're striving for the best, and you deserve it, buddy. And on behalf of all of us, to all of you, have a great weekend. Please stay safe. Please stay dry. And if you don't have to go anywhere, don't do it. Just don't do it. That's going to do it for our show. We'll see you Monday from 3 to 4 right here on the Power Hour on your sports network. See you. YSN thanks you.